Have you ever wondered how much defense costs? Let's talk about how many orbs it takes to summon all these units and all this fodder. Stick around and we'll talk about what corners you can cut and what the grand total is. Hello summoners and welcome to another episode of FEHology, the study of Fire Emblem Heroes. Listen, defense has been my obsession for the past year. I have built so many and have failed with a lot of them, but I wanted to sit down and walk through how much a good one actually costs. We're going to take mine since it got me to rank 1, but I hope this helps you understand better what you need to spend on and what you don't if you decide to embark on the insanity that is defense construction. One more thing, every defense is beatable. Understand that there is an element of RNG to all this, but let's get started. Should we talk about how painful this win is versus my beloved Dimitri? Now, that's a plus 10 right there versus Chrom. So you don't need a lot of merges on your premier damage dealer. Keep that in mind. I've done the Sims. A plus 0 Chrom does just about as well as a plus 7 as long as you have at least mediocre IVs. But oof, poor Dimitri. He's already dead, Chrom. Leave him alone. Let's get to cost. I'm using mostly base kit with Vantage inherited, and it serves the purpose and mostly gets the job done. It's worth noting that all these numbers are at 50th percentile. While you won't always get that, you probably have at least some of these units or fodder in your barracks, so it evens out. But Chrom doesn't need much, and most of your cutting edge damage dealers don't. Regardless, 120 orbs is the going rate for one of these units. What I'm really curious about is who is your premier damage dealer that you're using on your defense? Let me know in the comments. Summoners, invest in Catria. Seriously, she has aged like a fine wine and just continues to get better. Now it's worth noting that this is Arden's last match and oh, look at him in all of his glory. But back to Catria. Catria is excellent at support. The reason you put orbs into her is to give her a better player phase, but just look at how everyone bounces around the map. It's terrifying. Okay, cost. There are a lot of different ways you can go with this unit. If you're cutting corners, you don't really need to add most of them, but joint drive attack I find is almost essential. It is really spectacular the results you get, and it adds a ton of value. I'm still including the fodder because it has actually helped me, but know if you're cutting corners, this is a place to do it. Let's talk about the unit that never gets old. I'm just gonna assume at this point that everyone has a Brave Hector. He's invaluable on defense. Seriously, I worked really hard to avoid him because, I mean, it's Brave Hector. But here I stand before you with a fully built one. For near saviors, it doesn't take as much investment, especially when you have the glories of Niffle behind you. I really did expect Thor to do something, but she barely scratches him. How do you say no to that? Yeah, Hector's good. Since I'm assuming you already have one of these, I'm dropping all costs except fodder. The problem here is Hardy Fighter. It's on exactly 1 unit. And it is invaluable. This is not something you can skip. If you're serious about building a defense, I'd plan on getting a copy or 2. Still, 216 isn't a bad orb count. Here's where things really start to hit the bank of Fae. Your Far Savior is not a unit you can scrimp on. It's easily the most expensive piece on your defense from the standpoint of specialized things that it needs here versus anywhere else. The problem is they have to be there to counter all the crazy units that they've just put out. Yuri is still the premier hit and run unit, but we also have Ninjoran for free, and you're about to see her everywhere. On top of that, you need them to contribute on their player phase. You can see the Sethune does that just as she wallops Lysithea. No candy for you. But here comes the sticker shock. I won't include a spark here, so keep in mind you can drop the cost if you have a spark, but this is 640 orbs for a +1 unit. That's insane. And I can't say that any of this is extraneous. Even with all this investment, the margins are just so thin. If you can come up with a defense that doesn't use a Far Savior, you can cut a lot of cost out, but there's not a whole lot of that in this meta. The day of the Cav line is far, far behind us. Let's talk about the units that add the least to your defense. This is why Mythic Dancers are so good. At a minimum, they add something just past stats. I'm showing this video to demonstrate how easy it is to get too cute with your Mythics. Why do I have Brave Sword and Odd Tempest on Mira? Who knows? In this case, it actually hurt her because Reeves stalls her out. Why do I have this build on Odor? Well, actually it's for Summoner Duels, but he didn't get a single kill this season. Actually, in the 4 seasons that I've played this defense, I think he's gotten 1 kill. So I'm keeping this at 264 orbs. Just understand that most of these units work just fine with their base kit. I think the most valuable fodder that I've given a Mythic is a Spur or a Drive. Next is a unit that I have been truly excited about, and that's Niffle. This is the unit that finally put this defense over the top, and she's just so good. She gives buffs, she gives drives, she gives damage reduction, she has flash in her weapon, and she has decent attack and speed. This is almost a must-have right now. I'm showing you this replay not because she does any damage, but because she freezes the entire offense, while the defense does chip damage for 3 whole turns. That's insane. Keep in mind, Catria balls are dead because of Elamine, remember? But back to the cost, you really only need 1 of this unit. I'm marking this down as 120 orbs, and base kit works just fine. It's part of the magic of Niffle. I say base kit, Wind Sweep is really, really nice. So, I mean, go get some grails. Building a successful defense is still one of the hardest things you can do in this game. It was a personal goal of mine, which is why I spent the last year constructing 1 or 2 or however many it took. But this is still 6 months worth of orb income, and that's a lot. The big takeaway here is spend your orbs on your enemy phase units. They're expensive, but they give you the most bang for your buck, and they're what your defense needs to be pushed over the top. The other thing is, if you're looking to score better, your orbs are way better spent on the offense. Defense is really more for bragging rights. 1800 orbs gets you a lot of merges. Summoners, I hope this is valuable. I wanted to look at how much a defense actually costs so that you could budget for one if you want to build one. Again, it is for bragging rights, but that's a lot of what FE is, right? We don't try to get high ranks because it gives us some sort of reward. It's to get that sense of accomplishment that you actually beat it. Anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. Schedule an appointment with your FEHologist real soon, and take care.